Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, we love to get our hands dirty with some really fascinating books, and today we're tackling a topic that I think will resonate with a lot of you out there.
Oh, yeah.
Academic writing
Ooh, that's a big one.
is a big one, and specifically how to actually get a lot of it done.
I like it.
We're diving into Paul Silvia's book, How to Write a Lot, and as you might have guessed, it's packed with practical advice.
Practical advice, I like it.
And it's specifically for academics. So if you're listening to this and you're in that world, this is for you.
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll walk away with, I think, a clearer system for writing more efficiently, beating procrastination, and maybe even finding a little more joy in the process.
No, I think a lot of academics struggle with this idea, and they would love to get to that point.
Silvia tackles the common excuse right off the bat
Okay.
of, I don't have time to write.
Oh, we've all said it.
I think we all have. I think we've all said it at some point. And actually, he has all these really funny quotes from other academics
Oh, really?
who echo that sentiment. But he doesn't just stop there. He completely dismantles the whole idea of, finding time.
Right.
It's the wrong way to think about writing, he says.
Yeah, instead he suggests we treat writing time like teaching time.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us wouldn't just wander around hoping to, find time to teach.
Exactly.
We have it scheduled.
Yeah.
And we pretty much treat that as non-negotiable.
Exactly. Silvia emphasizes scheduling your writing time just like any other important meeting or class.
Now, that seems straightforward enough.
Yeah.
But I've personally found sticking to it can be tricky.
Oh, for sure.
Have you encountered similar challenges?
Absolutely. And Silvia addresses this as well. He really debunks this myth of, waiting for inspiration.
Oh, right.
He even cites a study where researchers compared different writing strategies.
Oh, really? Tell me more about this study.
Okay, so they had participants who were told to abstain from writing. Then there was a group that could only write when they were inspired. And then a group who wrote during scheduled sessions, regardless of whether or not they were feeling it.
Oh, wow. So they were really testing out this, butt in chair method versus, waiting for the muse to strike.
Exactly. And the results showed that the write only when inspired group was barely more productive than the group that wasn't supposed to write at all.
So the data really supports this idea that, waiting for inspiration can lead to procrastination.
Right. Silvia compares academics waiting for a muse to poets and novelists. He reminds us that academic writing is about clarity and communicating findings.
Right.
Effectively, it's not about crafting the next great novel.
I think that's such a good point, and it really takes the pressure off when you approach it from that perspective.
For sure.
So we've established, scheduled writing time is really crucial,
Yeah.
but then there's that other monster procrastination. How do we tackle that?
Well, Silvia offers several research-backed strategies, and I think one key strategy is setting really concrete goals. Not just vague wishes, but, specific achievable steps like write 500 words or outline the introduction.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels less overwhelming when you break down these large tasks into smaller chunks.
Right.
But even with those clear goals, prioritizing those tasks can be a struggle. Does Silvia offer any guidance there?
He does. He provides a hierarchy of writing tasks to help you prioritize.
Okay.
So, for example, he suggests tackling things like page proofs first.
Yeah, those are the final formatted versions of your article
Exactly.
for publication.
So those are high priority because any delays could hold up the whole publication process.
Gotcha. And then what comes next?
Revisions would be next.
Okay.
And then new manuscripts. So even if you love reading grant guidelines, which I know some people actually enjoy,
Some people really do, yeah.
it's probably not the most urgent task on your list.
So it's not about what we enjoy most, but really what needs our attention first.
Exactly.
Besides goal setting and prioritizing, what other strategies does Silvia recommend?
Well, he really emphasizes the power of tracking your progress. Something as simple as monitoring your daily word count can be surprisingly motivating.
Yeah.
In fact, Silvia tracks his own writing, and he aims to write 97% of weekdays and averages almost 800 words a day.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's encouraging to hear that he practices what he preaches. But what about those times when you just hit a wall during those writing sessions?
Yeah.
You just can't seem to get the words out.
Well, he actually challenges the whole concept of writer's block in academic writing.
Yeah.
He argues that it's not about waiting for this brilliant idea, it's about getting the information down clearly and concisely.
So are you saying we should treat writing more like a muscle that we need to train and exercise regularly?
That's a great analogy. The more you write, the easier it becomes. And Silvia even suggests a reward system to reinforce those positive writing habits.
So after I finish a really challenging writing session, I should treat myself to something enjoyable.
Exactly.
And no skipping my next writing session is not a reward.
Definitely not. That would defeat the purpose. Right.
But a small treat or indulgence can go a long way
Okay, I like that.
in solidifying those good habits.
All this talk about, systems and strategies, it kind of makes it sound like a very solitary endeavor.
Right.
Does Silvia address at all the social aspect of academic writing?
He does. He highlights the power of community and accountability through his experience starting a writing group
Oh, really?
with colleagues called the Agraphia Group.
The Agraphia Group. I love that name.
Yeah.
It plays on the idea of struggling with writing.
Uh,
What are some of the key elements of this group?
So the group focuses on short-term goals, genuine accountability. In fact, they have a folder of goals to track their progress.
Wow.
And it's a supportive yet firm environment.
I like that. Supportive yet firm.
Yeah.
Supportive yet firm. I like the sound of that. It sounds like, this Agraphia group really emphasizes the idea of social pressure and positive reinforcement to build those good writing habits.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest, a little caffeine probably doesn't hurt either.
I bet those meetings at the coffee shop were pretty productive.
Sylvia definitely acknowledges the power of a good coffee shop environment for productivity.
But moving beyond just, getting words on the page,
Right.
Silvia also offers some really valuable tips on crafting clear and compelling prose.
Yes.
Because what good is all that writing if it's difficult to read? And I imagine this applies to all forms of academic writing. Journal articles, grant proposals, book chapters.
Absolutely. Sylvia stresses the importance of choosing strong and precise words.
Okay.
He encourages us to ditch jargon and embrace clarity.
Yeah, which I think can be tough for academics.
For sure.
We're surrounded by all this, specialized terminology.
He specifically mentions foreign scholars
Oh, wow.
who might be relying on dictionaries when they're reading.
That's a good point.
And if a word's not in the dictionary, they're lost.
Right.
So it's a reminder to be mindful of our audience and make sure we're communicating effectively.
Absolutely. It's not about showing off our vocabulary, but really conveying our ideas in a way that others can understand.
For sure.
So strong word choices are crucial. But what about writing style itself?
Well, Sylvia delves into writing powerful sentences,
Okay.
advocating for varied sentence structure and the use of parallel phrasing,
Okay.
especially when highlighting comparisons or contrasts.
Oh, parallel phrasing, like where you structure phrases in a similar way.
Exactly.
That emphasize relationships between ideas.
Yes.
And that's so essential,
Yeah.
In psychology, where we're often comparing different groups or conditions.
Exactly. It creates a sense of balance and clarity for the reader.
Right. And he makes a point that I think a lot of academics need to hear.
What's that?
First drafts are meant to be messy.
Yes,
I'm a firm believer in getting those ideas down first and worrying about refining them later.
for sure.
Trying to write a perfect first draft is just paralyzing.
Sylvia reminds us that the goal of the first draft is to capture your thoughts and arguments, not to create this polished final product.
Right, the refining comes later.
Exactly.
This is all great advice for general academic writing. But does Silvia offer specific tips for different types of writing, like journal articles, for example?
He dedicates a significant portion of the book to breaking down the process of writing journal articles
Wow, okay.
and offering practical advice for each section.
That's really helpful because writing journal articles can feel very formulaic at times.
Right.
But I think that formula can actually be reassuring
Yeah.
when you're faced with this daunting task of writing.
Where do we even begin?
Right, where do we even begin? So where does he suggest we start?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of a strong introduction.
Okay,
It should start with an overview to hook the reader,
okay.
followed by a dive into relevant theories and past research, and this is crucial. He stresses the need to explicitly connect the research question to the broader problem stated in the introduction.
So no meandering allowed. It sounds like he advocates for a very clear and direct approach, guiding the reader through the logic of the study from the very beginning.
Yes.
Now, what about the dreaded method section?
Oh, yeah.
I've always found that to be like the most tedious part to write.
Sylvia actually encourages us to embrace the details in the methods section.
Hey, really?
Reviewers want to see a thorough explanation of how the research was conducted,
Okay.
not just a brief overview of the procedures.
So transparency is key.
Exactly.
It builds trust, and you're really demonstrating the rigor of your research.
Yeah.
Now, onto the results section.
Hmm.
I know many researchers really struggle with presenting their findings in a way that's engaging,
Right.
beyond just kind of listing a bunch of numbers and statistics.
Well, Silvia emphasizes the importance of storytelling in the results section,
Okay.
weaving a narrative around the data.
So it's not just a data dump,
Exactly.
but a way to bring those results to life.
Yes.
And make them meaningful for the reader. And I imagine visuals play a role here as well.
Absolutely. Silvia highlights the importance of tables and figures to declutter the text and highlight key patterns in the data.
Right.
Visuals can really be a researcher's best friend
I agree with that.
when it comes to presenting complex information effectively.
Moving on to the discussion section.
Yeah.
This is where we connect our findings back to the broader literature and explore the implications of our work. What guidance does Silvia offer for this crucial section?
Well, he suggests starting with a concise summary of the study's key takeaways.
Okay.
Ensuring that the reader really grasps the main points before diving into deeper analysis.
I'm sure he addresses the limitations section.
Yes.
Every study has limitations, but sometimes that section can feel like just a laundry list of everything that went wrong.
Right. Silvia encourages us to avoid generic statements about limitations.
Okay.
Instead, we should focus on specific limitations that are relevant to our study and discuss them constructively.
So instead of just pointing out the flaws, we should explain how they might be addressed in future research.
Exactly.
So turning those limitations into opportunities for further exploration, that's a much more positive and productive approach.
He also emphasizes that the discussion section is an opportunity to highlight the theoretical and practical implications of the findings.
Right.
And really making the research relevant to a wider audience.
It's answering that so what question.
Exactly.
Why should anyone care about these findings? What do they mean for the field and for the world beyond academia?
Right. The discussion section is where we bring everything together and make a compelling case for the value and significance of our work.
Now, this has all been incredibly helpful in terms of crafting the actual content of a journal article.
Right.
But what about the emotional side of things?
Oh, yeah.
Submitting your work to journals and facing potential rejection can be very challenging.
Silvia acknowledges the emotional toll of the submission process, particularly the sting of rejection. And he encourages a mindset shift, suggesting that we view rejection as an inevitable part of the process.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced my fair share of rejections.
Yeah.
And while it never feels good, it does help to remember that it's not always a reflection on the quality of our work.
He even suggests that we should expect rejection
Wow.
as a statistical probability.
Okay.
And it takes away some of the personal sting when we view it through that lens.
It's a really helpful reframing.
Yeah.
It's about detaching our ego from the outcome
Yes.
and remembering that the review process is inherently subjective.
Speaking of the review process,
Yeah.
Silvia also offers some interesting insights into the role of references.
Okay.
He emphasizes choosing references carefully,
Right.
not just to pad our list, but to really demonstrate our knowledge of the relevant literature and showcase the intellectual context for our work.
So references aren't just a formality.
Right.
They really help reviewers understand how our work fits within the broader field
Exactly.
and who we consider to be our intellectual influences.
He even suggests using references strategically
Oh, really?
to increase the chances of getting favorable reviewers.
Now, that's some next-level academic maneuvering.
Yeah.
But this sounds like he's advocating for a very thoughtful and intentional approach
Yes.
to every aspect of the publication process.
He also dives into the often complex world of co-authoring,
Oh, yeah.
which, as you know, can be a minefield of potential challenges.
Navigating co-authorship can be tricky,
Yes.
especially when it comes to issues of credit and responsibility.
Right.
So what guidance does Silvia offer in this area?
Well, he stresses the importance of choosing collaborators wisely
Okay.
and having open communication from the outset.
Right.
Discussing authorship early on, clarifying everyone's roles and responsibilities,
Yeah.
and setting clear expectations for timelines and contributions.
That sounds crucial. It's better to have those potentially awkward conversations up front
Exactly.
than to deal with misunderstandings and resentment down the road.
He specifically advises graduate students to have clear communication with their advisors about authorship timelines and expectations, and even suggests that they slip their advisor a copy of this chapter
I love that.
if they're being less than responsive.
A little passive-aggressive book recommendation never hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But seriously, that open communication is so important
For sure.
for a healthy and productive advisor-student relationship.
He also offers guidance for managing disagreements or conflicts
Yeah.
that may arise during the co-authoring process,
Right.
emphasizing the need for clear communication
Right.
and a willingness to compromise.
So far, we've mainly focused on journal articles.
Right.
But does Silvia address other forms of academic writing, like books?
He does. He dedicates a whole chapter to the art of writing books.
Oh, wow.
And he breaks it down into 3 key steps.
3 steps. That sounds almost too simple. I'm intrigued.
The steps are find a partner, plan the book, and write it.
Okay, so maybe not as simple as it sounds initially. I can imagine that each of those steps involves a considerable amount of work and planning.
Fair.
So let's start with finding a partner. What guidance does Silvia offer for selecting a co-author for a book project?
Well, he emphasizes, again, the importance of choosing wisely.
Okay.
He advises against partnering with someone who's known for procrastination
Yeah.
or who has a vastly different work style than your own.
Right.
Compatibility is key.
Yeah, a mismatched co-authoring pair could spell disaster for a book project
Exactly.
once you found that ideal partner.
Yeah.
What about planning the book itself? That seems like a monumental task.
Well, Silvia recommends starting with a solid table of contents,
Okay.
Outlining the main chapters and sections of the book.
Okay.
But he also encourages flexibility,
Okay.
acknowledging that books, especially large ones, often take on a life of their own during the writing process.
It's important to have a roadmap, but to be willing to deviate from it if the project demands it. And I imagine that flexibility is really crucial for maintaining momentum and preventing creative burnout.
Yeah. He also offers advice for navigating the publishing world,
Okay.
suggesting that aspiring book authors attend conferences,
Right.
network with editors.
So it's about putting yourself out there,
Yes.
making those connections within the publishing industry.
He even recommends pitching book ideas directly to editors,
Oh, wow.
advocating for a proactive approach
Okay.
rather than waiting for opportunities to come knocking.
So it's about treating your book like a product
Yeah.
and marketing it to potential publishers. I like that approach.
He also provides a breakdown of a typical book contract,
Okay.
highlighting key elements like deadlines,
Yeah.
royalties, and copyright.
That's really helpful because those contracts can be intimidating,
For sure.
especially for first-time authors.
Yeah.
So having a guide to understanding those key provisions can really take away some of the mystery and anxiety.
And finally, he touches on the production process, reminding authors to secure necessary permissions for any copyrighted material.
Oh, right.
Ensure that figures are clear and high quality,
Yeah.
and crucially, to have someone proofread those final page proofs.
Proofreading is essential.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing what a fresh pair of eyes can catch.
For sure.
I know I've missed embarrassing typos in my own work simply because I've looked at it too many times.
He also advises authors to familiarize themselves with the style guide of their chosen publisher
Okay.
to ensure consistency and avoid unnecessary revisions during the production process.
It sounds like Silvia really covers every stage of the book writing journey,
He does.
from that initial idea to the final published product.
He provides a really comprehensive and practical guide
Yeah.
for navigating the challenges and celebrating the triumphs of bringing a book to life.
This has been a deep dive indeed.
For sure.
We've covered a lot of ground, from scheduling writing time to crafting clear prose to navigating the complexities of journal articles and books.
Absolutely.
Silvia's book seems like an invaluable resource
Oh, yeah.
for any academic looking to boost their writing, productivity, and effectiveness.
It's a treasure trove of practical wisdom,
Yeah.
grounded in both research and experience.
But what strikes me most is his emphasis on this joy of scheduling.
Right.
He doesn't shy away from the fact that writing can be hard,
Oh, yeah.
even unpleasant at times.
It can be.
But he argues that scheduling, counterintuitive as it may seem,
Yeah.
can actually lead to a sense of satisfaction and pride in our work.
He talks about the craftsman's sense of pride. That
Yeah.
comes from showing up
Oh,
for
yeah.
your scheduled writing time, even on the tough days.
And he compares it to teaching.
Yeah.
We don't always feel like teaching,
Right.
but we show up, we do the work,
We do it.
and there's a sense of fulfillment in that.
Exactly.
It's about shifting from this mindset of wanting to write
Yeah.
to a mindset of doing the writing.
He's adamant that you don't have to love writing to be a productive writer.
Yeah.
The key is to show up consistently, do the work,
Trust the system.
and trust the system. This is a really empowering message.
I think so too. It takes away the pressure
Yeah.
of having to feel, inspired or passionate all the time.
He also highlights the power of habit.
Yeah.
The more we stick to that schedule,
Hmm.
the less resistance we'll feel.
Right.
Eventually, sitting down to write will just become part of our routine,
Right.
just like brushing our teeth or checking our email.
That's a reassuring thought. It's not about waiting for motivation to strike.
Right.
It's about building a habit
Yes.
that will carry us through even when motivation is lacking.
He also reminds us that writing is not a race.
Right.
It's not about churning out publication.
Yeah. Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Silvia encourages us to be thoughtful about our motives for writing
Right.
and to focus on producing work that is meaningful and impactful.
He even has this funny line
Oh, tell me.
about being proud of the euthanized manuscripts.
Oh, I love that.
You know, those papers that could be published but probably shouldn't be.
Yes.
That's a great point. It's a reminder that not everything we write
Right.
needs to see the light of day.
Sometimes the most valuable writing is the writing that helps us clarify our own thinking,
Absolutely.
even if it never gets submitted.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Silvia's How to Write a Lot, the key takeaway, I think, is this.
Okay.
It's less about inspiration
Yeah?
and more about building a system that works for you.
It's about creating a sustainable writing practice
Yeah.
that allows us to produce high-quality work
Right.
without sacrificing our well-being or sanity.
Exactly. If you're looking for more in-depth advice and guidance, I highly recommend checking out Silvia's book.
Oh, for sure.
It's a game changer for anyone struggling to find their writing rhythm.
Now, before we go,
Yeah.
I'd love to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If you had to commit to just one small change from this deep dive, what would have the biggest impact on your writing?
That's a great question.
We encourage you to ponder that and maybe even try it out.
Until next time, happy writing, fellow knowledge seekers. Yeah, I think that's a great question to reflect on. You know, Silvia offers so many strategies, but even implementing one small change could make a big difference. Personally, I'm going to try tracking my daily word count. I'm curious to see if that simple act of monitoring my progress, actually boosts my motivation. What about you? Is there one strategy that particularly resonated with you?
You know, I'm really drawn to Silvia's emphasis on reframing rejection as a statistical probability.
Right.
It's such a powerful way to detach from the emotional sting of it and to
Yeah.
kind of view the publication process more objectively.
It's like taking a scientific approach
Yes.
to the inherently subjective world of academic publishing.
Exactly. Instead of seeing rejection as this personal failure, we can view it as a data point in a larger system.
I like that. And speaking of data, Silvia also offers some intriguing insights into the world of grant writing.
Yes.
He emphasizes the importance of understanding the specific goals and priorities of the funding agency.
Right. It's not just about presenting these brilliant research ideas,
Right.
but about aligning those ideas with the funder's mission
Yeah.
and demonstrating how the research will contribute to their overall objectives.
So it's about putting ourselves in the reviewer's shoes
Exactly.
and crafting a proposal that is clear, compelling, and persuasive.
He also stresses the importance of clear and concise writing in grant proposals.
Okay.
You know, reviewers often have to sift through a huge number of applications.
Yeah, they're busy people.
So it's crucial to make our proposal stand out
Right.
by presenting our ideas in a way that is easy to understand and digest.
Makes sense. We need to make their job easier
Exactly.
by presenting our ideas in a clear and compelling way.
He even suggests using visuals strategically in grant proposals
Okay.
to kind of break up dense text and highlight key findings or
Yeah.
concepts.
Yeah, a well-placed graph or chart can go a long way
Absolutely.
in making a proposal more engaging and memorable.
And finally, he reminds us that grant writing, like all forms of academic writing, is a skill that can be learned and improved over time.
It's about practice persistence
Yes.
and a willingness to learn from our mistakes.
Silvia encourages us to embrace the challenge of grant writing,
Yeah.
viewing it as an opportunity to refine our ideas and communicate the value of our research to a wider audience.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Silvia's How to Write a Lot, I'm really struck by his ability to combine practical advice
Yeah,
with a healthy dose of humor and encouragement.
for sure.
He acknowledges the challenges of academic writing,
Absolutely.
but ultimately empowers us to become more productive, efficient, and joyful writers.
He provides a roadmap, not just for writing more, but for writing better.
Right.
Writing that is clear, compelling, and meaningful.
If you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of academic writing, I highly encourage you to check out Silvia's book.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a game changer for anyone seeking to transform their writing practice.
And remember, you don't have to implement all of his suggestions at once.
Right.
Just start with one small change. Build a sustainable writing habit and celebrate your progress along the way.
That's great advice. Small steps can lead to big changes over time. And who knows, you might even find yourself enjoying the process. Until next time, happy writing.